Last sessions on the last day. We're super excited. It's been a really wonderful journey. And of course, this is a consensus session. So we thought we'd start by settling one of the biggest debates that have been overshadowing, might I say, this process for the last 6 months maybe. Like, people are wondering what to do about it. And that actually has to do with this lovely initiative. Is it ESIC or is it ESIC? What do you think?
The word is ESIC, certainly.
ESIC?
ESIC.
I'm not so sure.
Who's with me? Oh, there are some people.
Okay, show me ESIC.
Oh no, there's nobody. Let's see again. ESIC.
Oh, okay. Okay. I guess it's settled, right?
I think it's settled, right? Yeah.
Okay, super. So with that being settled, so in this session, we won't go to a vote. It's a consensus session, and what we just did is actually not consensus. We're trying to build consensus through discourse and critical engagement. So if you go back to the meeting playbook, that's how we define consensus. So if you thought at the end of this there would be really, really big plenary vote on the charter, that's not what's going to happen. We're trying to have a good last conversation, building on the conversations for the last 3 days, as well as the conversations over the last 6 months. So hopefully you can have a really, really nice engagement. It will follow a slightly adapted structure from the previous days. So just very briefly, we'll start off with 2 quick interventions from Carrie and Carla, giving us a little bit of an outlook of what is next. Then we'll hear from Shanil, framing the idea of a charter again in the South African context and the UN context. Then you'll see the charter. It is already ready. We somehow managed to print the 200 copies, and they are in the rooms. So we'll provide you with this, and Rona and I will take you through it at the same time on the screen. After that, we'll go back into the groups, the same way we did it the last afternoon, in groups of 4, to discuss it a bit more. And then we'll have a bit of a moment of a reflection for individual contributions of how we can take this forward. More or less the outline of the day. I think that's hopefully good. And Carrie, can I start you to kick us off?
Thanks, Lawrence. So people had been asking what was happening with the roadmap. What are the processes to engage after this? So just quickly, I'm commenting here with my hat as part of the roadmap writing team, along with Andrea Yearwood and Will Moy. I don't know if you want to stand up. They did a lot of the work. I just took a lot of the chairing glory. Yeah. So we heard, really, really super rich feedback that came in on the first draft of the roadmap, both from the online consultation the week before we came here, but also really the amazing comments that have been coming in over the last 3 days. So we need to kind of go away and process those, I think. There were a lot of angles possibly that we hadn't thought of that we've been hearing, where we need to sort of tweak our language. There are some that we also need to really think about. The lightning talks, I think, neglected perspectives were very interesting as well. So lots and lots and lots. So tomorrow the co-leads, the co-funders, the secretariat and the writing team have an after-action review where we're going to share our collective intelligence on what we heard over the week and what we need to incorporate in the roadmap. And then on Saturday, the roadmap writing teams stay behind to produce version 2 of the roadmap. Depending on the level of feedback, but we will do our very best to turn this around quickly and to get version 2 ready within a 2-week time frame. We commit to sharing this with all of you, as well as online, for further feedback and comments. And we're also going to present the changes more formally in a webinar in around a month's time, so that you can hear the changes that we've incorporated. We're also going to work to produce some sort of associated products with the roadmap, including a common roadmap PowerPoint slide deck, and linked infographics, and a plea as well to keep those real-world examples coming in. A lot of the examples were still from the 80s or 90s. Any real-world examples of impact from evidence synthesis, fantastic, please. We need more of those. And then just finally to say, even then, this is not going to be a final version. Version 2.0 isn't the end product. We really want it to be a living document that speaks to all of us. So it's going to continue to evolve in coming months in line with our continuing evolving thinking. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Carrie. Carla, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I think we've done fantastic so far, but there is a question mark for most of us at what's coming next. So we have a small part of this. We've discussed with the Secretariat, also discussed with the Wellcome Trust, so that we would like to have regular updates to this community. The way we'll do that, we're committing to have a monthly newsletter and every other month a webinar. So the webinar are going to be managed by Ruth Foxley, I'm taking the opportunity to thank because she's been fantastic and behind the scenes to make things happen. And we will do our best to provide an update, but also bring perspective from, for example, the roadmap, etc., to the webinar so that we can discuss. On the top of it, Zoe and Bianca have taken on board to create a comms plan on which we are working on infographics and designs, but also focusing on the reports, on the solutions, and create shorter versions of the report, working with the roadmap team to create shorter versions and ways of communicating this process of the past 6 months. So we want to continue the momentum. I think there is, for some of us, very important that we actually create this perspective, and we're hoping to be able to maintain the website for at least until the end of the year, so that all the information that you need or in a way to communicate with us, we'll keep the email as well, so that you can also have a platform to enter in contact with us. And if there are other things new, just bear with us. Everything is now moving in a very agile pace, so we'll be keeping you informed, as I said, in a monthly newsletter. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Carla. And now we'll come over to Shanil to give us a quick framing, again with the charter. And if we could get the slides up, that would be fantastic. And we can go to the next slide.
Good afternoon. I will frame the charter before the charter is presented in light of the founding of and the adoption of the Freedom Charter today. In the same way that a charter defines the fundamental principles and purposes of an organization or a state, the Freedom Charter was intended to serve as a foundational document that outlined the fundamental rights and aspirations of all South Africans. The Freedom Charter represented a declaration of the people's will and served as the basis for a democratic, non-racial South Africa. It articulated a vision for the future of South Africa, outlining the society the people aspire to build, including principles of equality, democracy, and social justice. The consultative process at the Evidence Synthesis Infrastructure Collaborative has engaged in over the last 6 months, culminating in the dynamic discussions we've had over the past 3 days, which has guided by the exceptional efforts of the 6 working groups, has led to 2 significant outcomes: the ESIC roadmap and the Cape Town Consensus Charter. The outcomes have emerged from a variety of perspectives gathered through multiple engagements, allowing the ESIC to genuinely evolve into a community of communities through its collaborative efforts. One can draw parallels between the ESIC journey culminating in Cape Town and the process of founding and adopting the Freedom Charter exactly 70 years ago today, on 26 June 1955 in Soweto, Johannesburg. I suppose that'll be indelibly marked in your memory forever. Today, we can proudly adopt the Cape Town Consensus Charter as a community due to our dedication and commitment to leveraging evidence synthesis into life-changing actions. This charter, similar to other charters, delineates the core principles and ambitions of the ESIC community. This charter, akin to the Freedom Charter, serves as a powerful call to action for us both individually and collectively. The Cape Town Charter will serve as our guiding light, illuminating our path as we transform dialogue into action via the ESIC roadmap, embodying positive change through solidarity, compassion, cooperation, and respect. Moreover, as advocates of the Cape Town Consensus Charter, we will be guided by the universal call to action of the United Nations Charter. And believe it or not, founded exactly 80 years ago today. 1945, 26th of June. So it's become quite an auspicious day for ESIC as well. And as we know that the call to action of the UN Charter is to eradicate poverty, safeguard the planet, and guarantee that all individuals experience peace and prosperity. Founded on 5 fundamental principles: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. However, prosperity and peace remain elusive in many communities around the world. Let's take this opportunity to please observe a few moments of silence to remember these communities. Thank you. Thank you. I'll hand over to Rona and to Lawrence.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that really frames it for us. Not only in terms of being part of history and making history, and I didn't know about the UN Charter being endorsed today. But I think it puts many things for me in perspective, and I hope for many other people. So how about we look at our own charter and see what it is that we're committing to, or that we have worked on over the last 6 months, that we have stress tested over the last 3 days. I think the conversations have been very, very deep, very thoughtful, certainly, at least the ones I was a part of, but also from what I heard from other people. I think they're not conversations to be taken lightly. And I am glad that you are the people in the room, to have been a part of that. And so I'm hoping that everybody has a copy. So what you see up there is exactly what you will have in front of you. And so this is what we've been, working towards, at least for these 3 days. But I know for so many months, again, we've said that over and over again, the last 6 months, the commitment, the, thought processes, the critique, heated debates, very intellectual input. But at the end of the day, hoping that all of this science is to commit ourselves to something, to a greater cause, to something that can change, to move from business as usual. This is what we're saying, this is what we aspire to collectively. And I hope that therein you might see a few things which are, but there must be something that you can see a reflection of for you, for your community, for your organization, something that makes you want to say, I'm so glad I was a part of this process. I'm so glad this is what we're committing to. I think I can go back and speak for this. I can highlight it. I'm going to be, looking at all your LinkedIn pages tonight to see, are we committing together? Okay? But this is what it is. If we just look at the first paragraph, and maybe to feel it, sometimes when I'm reading something, I say it out loud. I say it to myself, but I speak out loud. And it's helpful for me. I don't know if you can join me, that we can say this together and see how you feel about it. Can we say it together? It feels like a class, but don't worry about that. But can we say this together and really commit to what it is that we've all collectively worked on? So let's go. We commit to, don't come after me. Let's just do it together. Let's go, 1, 2, 3, let's go. We commit to transforming evidence synthesis to improve lives. I can't even hear you. Well done. I think it's the guys who were in the ESIC group that I had. I did hear ESIC group. Yeah. But I'll just read it again. I think there's a few of us who are still sort of trying to go through the whole document. But this is what we're saying. This is what we're saying to the world. This is what we're saying to our grandchildren. 80 years when they say the consensus, alongside, by then it will be what, 160 years for the UN Charter, so many other years. This is what they'll be saying that we committed to. This is what we said to them, that we commit to transforming evidence synthesis to improve lives. Alongside our own individual and organizational efforts, we commit to building and sustaining together the evidence synthesis infrastructure collaborative, hereafter the collaborative, as a vehicle for this transformation. We commit to a strategic shift of power to the global south and more generally to locating equity in its many dimensions at the heart of the infrastructure, the processes and outputs enabled by it, and its impacts on people. Embracing this once-in-a-generation opportunity for impact, we will follow the 5 steps in the ESIC roadmap and the Show Me the Evidence principles to achieve this vision and make the collaborative a cornerstone of the global evidence architecture. And when we go through, the different bits of it, you'll see that they're speaking back to this one thing that we're committing to, or this one collective paragraph that I just read. And again, you will also see that a lot of this you've probably had already in your conversations, because as you look at it, what you see in black is definitely a reflection of what came out of the roadmap and continues to be refined, while what is in blue, you will see that each of these says, in Cape Town, this is what we said. In Cape Town, this is what we committed to. So it's coming out of the conversations that we have had collectively. I'll ask Lawrence to take us through the first bits of it.
Rona, I just laughed coming after you. I don't know why I keep doing that to myself. So the next 2 steps is essentially our first commitments. The first one is around the infrastructure elements, which hopefully sound familiar to you. I think most of us have lived and breathed them over the last 6 months. And you can see how we're building on it, how Cape Town, particularly on our first day, how we had a more deep dive into them. We unpacked where there still were gaps. We made sure that specifically in the infrastructure, we foreground the equity and the leadership again from the Global South. We talked about that there's a significant amount of alignment that has to happen really soon in the planning process. We talked about how that could be made a reality through communication, coordination, and in particular, which came from today's session, that this type of alignment needs to follow a principle of nothing without us, nothing for us without us. It came out of a morning session. And then lastly, that certainly we need to be very alert to any unintended consequences in that process. So that, in short, is our first commitment, following the outline of the roadmap. The second one, we then go into how to make user-centered evidence synthesis the norm. Not the exception, but something that becomes a daily reality, the way we approach our work. And particularly to make synthesis more timely, relevant, and affordable. Again, we zoom in then a little bit on what did we do in Cape Town specifically. We heard a lot that there are still sectors that are a bit underrepresented, that are a bit neglected, and we need to bring those into the process better. And that extends to interest holders as well. We must systematize and innovate evidence synthesis further, and particularly on co-productions with citizens. And all of that, I think, came together in a really, really nice, geeky session on the idea of evidence for big decisions and how we can move to policy-scale evidence synthesis.
Thanks, Lawrence. And, moving on to the third one, we did realize that a lot of what we do, we don't want it to, not mean anything, not move on to where it makes a change. And we did acknowledge the role that the people that work in the intermediary space might play in this. And so we've committed to working with intermediaries who support decision makers of any kind. And specifically in Cape Town, we've agreed that, we hear the excitement for these people and from them as well, with groups seeing clear functions for them and how the roadmap can support their work. They have been reflected very well in the roadmap, and we've promised that we will support them with actionable insights about what we are learning from around the world and how these findings vary by groups and contexts. We've agreed that we'll do that. We will open reusable data on tap that can be rapidly contextualized, and that the quality assurance for the data that we're sharing, will be there, that they can really count on us. And again, from the steps in the roadmap, on the fourth one, we're committing that more people will start using and keep using high-quality evidence synthesis. And we said we will ensure that evidence intermediaries have decision-ready information for decisions that matter, including decisions by government policy makers, organizational leaders, professionals. I think there's quite a number of these that we have named in the roadmap, and we've also defined, what we see these people as being, because then again, there's that variation in definitions, and we will also ensure that this information is available to funders, both domestic development, philanthropic, and research that support the operationalization of these decisions. But specifically, over the last 3 days, what we have said in Cape Town is that we must do more to respond to demand, and where it is lacking, to stimulate requests. to anticipate needs and showcase examples of other similarly placed decision makers asking for and using evidence synthesis. And secondly, we will help decision makers make better use of prompts in generative AI tools and explore partnerships with technology companies to prioritize rigorously synthesized evidence.
And then the last one is really going into what does this all lead up to. Better informed decisions, improving the lives of people, and saving us money, so we can do it more effectively. We zoomed into that quite a bit, particularly in the sessions where we discussed, well, do we have competition? Do we have complementarities with ChatGPT and other large language models? And it's about getting the balance right. We have competition. We do know that. And as a community, we do need to step up to that challenge. And that extends to also how do we communicate that? How do we get more people on board on this journey? And to make a really clear commitment of how we can jointly move forward. So hopefully those 5 steps, you have recognized them, you've seen them before, we can commit to them. And then, if we bring all of that together, what type of outputs, what type of real-world, tangible things can we move forward to? And I think we're hoping we can make a strong commitment to a series of suites of AI-enabled living evidence synthesis, so that it's not just an idea, not just an abstract infrastructure, but really something that we can feel and touch, that we can bring to our decision makers, that we can bring to our citizens, and that we can bring to our communities. And all of that is in the beautiful framing that Shanil has outlined in the context of the South African Freedom Charter, the UN Charter, and it's a beautiful moment. As we wrote in the cards, it's a historic moment, and we thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, so with that, we're going into getting our hands dirty. And we hope we can go back into the group work that we did on our first and second day. So if we can ask you to, as yesterday, the tables on the left-hand side, if you can stand up and go to the left, the table at the back, if you can stand up and go to the back, and the tables on the right, move to the right a little bit. So everybody has to stand up, I'm afraid. Super. And then we can go into our exercise. You see that you have 2 prompts on the big screen. So we'd ask you for the next 20 minutes in your groups together to discuss the 2 different prompts we've given you. The first one being, to what extent can you be an advocate for the consensus charter? And what ideas do you have for what we can do now to take the charter forward? So, to what extent can you advocate, and what can we do to take it forward? 20 minutes, and then we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Okay. Well done. I think that I eavesdropped on a few conversations, and I think there's quite a lot we still, are talking about. And I know, we went into these conversations. Yeah? Sorry, just hold on. Someone is dying to tell me about his conversation. That's really, really nice. And, I just wanted to highlight, we went into this, conversation, into our small groups. Some of us feeling quite heavy, right? It was a bit of a somber mood and a heavy mood. And I think, rightly so, this is serious business, It's serious business. It's not, again, like I said, it's not just a science. It does mean quite a bit. And, you know, between Lawrence and I, he's the serious one. So, but for me, it's actually a celebratory moment as well. And so I want some of that heaviness, you know, to let go a little bit. Let's also think about, yes, the seriousness. Let's also think about how much we have to celebrate at this point. How much hard work, you know, has gone into us. Just, it looks like one page, but so much hard work. And, you know, I sent for a bottle of champagne, but they said we still need to be serious. So please pop a bottle of champagne in your head. You know, you've worked really hard, you've put in so much, and much as it's serious business, I think it's also a moment to celebrate. And so even as you think about, what can I do, you know, to advocate, or what can we do to take this forward, let's think about it as going out as heroes, you know, as people with something to be very proud of. So it's serious business, but don't stay with the heavy weight. Please do celebrate as well. But I'll hand back to Lawrence to see us through this.
Thanks, Rona. So with any good story, if you've seen in the storytelling opening, you start acknowledging where we are, and then we end on a high note. We celebrate. We know it's a big moment. We've discussed this. And now we have a little experiment to see how can we celebrate our moment. The colleagues will bring out postcards that should be coming up in a second. And those postcards are for each of us to think about on this journey that we've been together for the last 6 months, for the 3 days here. What is one thing that I can commit to? One thing that I can do to take the charter, to take the roadmap forward. And this can be a really light thing, because where this is coming from, this comes from evidence-informed behavioral science principles that if we commit to our future selves, we're more likely to follow through. Often, we sit on a plane and we think about, well, so many things to do at a meeting, it's super exciting, and I've got a lovely, lovely long list of 20, 30 points, but I get to none of them. So if we commit to our future selves to just do one thing, one very specific thing, think about what you're doing, who you're doing it with, when you're doing it, what would that be? And this lovely idea came from Jeremy Grimshaw. So Jeremy, thanks a lot for that suggestion. And if we can go to the next slide. So this is 10 minutes, a message to your future selves. And please, 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 this is really important, please put your address on the postcard, because we will actually send this to you afterwards. We promise. It will find you. So with that, let's have a bit of fun. And
that also means you don't move. Please stay at that address until you receive this. Please.
Yeah. This postcard will come and find you. It will come remind you of this very moment that we shared together. Yeah, so, yeah. It's, just one more quick time, a few questions. What is there to write? Any commitment you can make to yourself. In the spirit of celebration, what is it you can now commit to? And the more specific, the better. That's the behavioral science principle behind it. The commitment, sorry to not clarify that, we assume the commitment can be to the charter or the roadmap, but if you want to commit to something else for your future selves, of course, that is fine. The address you can write either on the left or the right. Yeah. Okay, I hope you've all written your one thing. The colleagues will come and collect these postcards now. We do promise you they will come to you if the South African Postal Service allows. I saw some really beautiful things. I saw the Africa Evidence Youth League being ready to take this forward. I saw commitments to making academic research more accessible, to bring in local realities, indigenous knowledge, focusing on disability more, event at the UN General Assembly apparently, so some really, really nice commitments. Thank you very much for these. I will now give it back to you, Rona, to take us to the next slot.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we're going to the next one yet. I think I'm curious. I just want to see what a few of us might have committed, as a random representative of your group, maybe a working group, maybe an interest group. And I know that a few of us really went through all kinds of things to get here. We did hear Carla's story, but there's quite a few of us that went through almost the same story. Russia, I know that getting here wasn't easy, but what are you feeling about this whole, consensus, what we've committed to? And maybe you could speak for the early career researchers. How do you feel about things?
Thank you, Rona. And so if time permits, I would like to start by reflecting. I know there's an echo here. Can I get them? I always get this mic, the one with the echo. So I would like to start by reflecting a bit on my ESIC journey before reflecting on the next steps and what this means. So my name is Rasha Fadlallah, and I'm based at the American University of Beirut in Lebanon. I work in the space of evidence synthesis production through the Center for Systematic Reviews, as well as in the space of knowledge translation through the Knowledge to Policy Center. Within ESIC, I am a member of Working Group 3, which is related to AI. So I would just like to reiterate that ESIC is really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for all of us to come together to transform evidence synthesis to improve lives for everyone. And we really cannot improve lives for everyone without putting equity as a centerpiece and also as an engine for the work of ESIC. And as we have seen, certainly the ESIC community recognizes the importance of equity. And that's why we have the whole of today devoted to equity. We had 5 consecutive sessions on equity. And it's also why I am here today, sitting in front of you. So a mid-career academic from the Global South, specifically from the Middle East, which is the most underrepresented region, as we saw from the presentation earlier today. And unfortunately, it's the region where we have tremendous gaps when it comes to capacities and needs around evidence synthesis and knowledge translation. So I just also want to reinforce that my involvement in ESIC, it's not just to tick a box. I was genuinely and actively involved in shaping and framing problems and in proposing solutions. So this has been a tremendous opportunity for people like myself, coming from the Global South, coming from underrepresented region. And certainly, so what does this mean, taking this forward? So I want to say that certainly the Cape Town meeting has been unprecedented in terms of its scope, in terms of its breadth, in terms of the stakeholders that came around the table. But certainly it's just a book, it's just a chapter in the ESIC book. So we have many more chapters that will be written as we go back to our homes, to our communities, to our countries and our regions. In my case, I will certainly leave Cape Town more energized, more committed and excited to continue the conversation with my colleagues, within my networks, within my country and region as well. And certainly, so we just saw this charter that was displayed in front of us, and it's really, it's a very nice framework that brings together the different players within the evidence ecosystem to achieve sustainable impact. We have been doing all of that. We have been engaging with the different players, but it was being done in an ad hoc siloed approach. And this charter is bringing and giving us a systematic way moving forward. So we will certainly initiate dialogues with all the different evidence players in our countries and regions. We will empower them to ensure they know their roles within the evidence ecosystem, and certainly partner with them and commit to this charter moving forward. And certainly, as a mid-career academic, we certainly, just as we had a role in developing the roadmap, we certainly see a role in supporting its implementation. So we would like to close the loop on that, and certainly with the right support and commitment, I am sure that we can have a tremendous role in implementation and achieving impact, which is the ultimate outcome. And as I mentioned earlier, I come from a region where there is a tremendous need for evidence synthesis. But this is also an opportunity to convert that need and that gap into an opportunity for action. So with the right support and the right investment, we can really make changes. Each of us come from different countries, different regions that have their own unique context, their own unique gaps, their own unique stakeholders. We know what is needed, and we also know the assets that can be leveraged along the way. And this is important because if we look at some of the solutions in the roadmap, many of them are doable, so we don't need to start from scratch. We can actually leverage existing structures. We can leverage the assets that we have within our regions to translate the vision and the charter into action. So, for example, we lead, for example, a global mentorship program in my country, and certainly through working with ESIC, we can contribute to establishing a global competency framework. And certainly through that competency framework for evidence synthesis and knowledge translation, we can translate that into the workshops, the training material and mentorship that we provide to countries in the Middle East and to the global South. So what I'm trying to say is that we can create that ripple effect within our regions and countries. And this really can translate into best value for money. And certainly as we take a part in the solutions, this will also bring an opportunity for us to upgrade our skills and competencies along the way. And in doing so, we are building a cadre of policymakers, researchers, and intermediaries that are more skilled, more equipped for the future, to lead a future where ESIC becomes the norm. So I would like to conclude by saying, certainly this is not the end. This is just the beginning of a very exciting and transformative journey, and we cannot really do it in silos. We all came together for the development, and we should all continue the journey when it comes to its implementation. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for taking more time.
Okay. If you've been part of this, process for the last 6 months and also really read your reports very well, you must be thinking about citizens, whether you want it or not. Yeah? And I think that push for us to think deeply about citizens, Maureen is definitely behind that. Have we done a good job?
Yes, yes, thank you. I'm going to ask the 3 citizens who were the 2 who are here, who were part of the 6-month process, Euphrasia and Michelle, to stand with me. Richard Morley was also there for the first 3 months, but he had to step back. And the 3 citizens who are here as part of the consensus, so I'd like to stand Danilo, Isa, and Violet, because we didn't do this alone, for sure. I'm going to be very brief, because Euphrasia's got a transportation to meet very quickly. So it's fair to say that as citizen leaders here, are you all standing? We are inspired, but cautiously so. So because we do want to commit to heed the call to action, your call to action and our own citizen call to action, and continue engaging with you and working to realize all of these goals. But we're also very aware that we're in an interest holder group that, that remains at risk of being excluded, and that when ESIC becomes operationalized. So, and that's because of the tremendous power imbalance that exists between our interest holder group and a lot of the other interest holder groups that are in the evidence synthesis ecosystem. So during the process of the 6 months and here today, we have met many champions and allies and other people who hold the power, who can make this a reality. And we want to work with you, we want to work alongside you, and we are definitely committed, but we need help to really realize that commitment because of that power imbalance. And we really believe that with working with citizens, both areas of the ESIC goal, so bringing the evidence to everyone to make the decisions that they need to make in a format that's equitable, that works for them, that reaches everyone in the world, and then also the goal of also involving us in the production of evidence can really be met with this collaboration that we would like to have with you. So and a note to funders, I'm going to end there. If you're not already doing so, one of the things that you could do to advance this culture change is really to make it a requirement that there is citizen engagement in the funds that in the projects that you fund, and also reporting on the impacts of that engagement as a mandatory requirement. So, and I just want to thank everyone and say this was the best meeting of my life. I've told a few of the organizers that. I'm thrilled to be here, and I've made all kinds of new friends and really optimistic about the future. So a big thank you to the 6 citizens who bravely joined this very large group and expressed themselves so eloquently in the last 3 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. And it's very, very easy for us to, forget what is important in this work. And I think you reminded us many times. I think the other group that I keep thinking about is how much multilateral partners and friends have been committed to this. You will agree that, there's been quite a number of them who've been committed to this process. They've given input, they've given critique, they've given us perspective, context. We keep talking about these policy processes that we haven't been a part of. They've helped us understand how we can be relevant to them. I'll ask Andrew Cook. I don't know, Andrea Cook. How are you feeling about things? I was kind of expecting you on the other side. Yeah.
So, I am Andrea Cook. I'm the Executive Director of the United Nations System-Wide Evaluation Office. I'm a key member of the leadership group for the Global SDG Synthesis Coalition, and I've also been a very active participant in getting us here as a member of the working group on governance. So, first off, I'd just really like to thank the Wellcome Trust for facilitating this amazing process, but also everyone who has worked so hard to get us here and to make this meeting just so interactive and effective as a forum to get the work done. So first of all, we'd just like to say that. But here I'm speaking on behalf of multilaterals and our interests and our commitment from across international finance institutions, multilateral development banks, and the United Nations, to really communicate that we share very deeply the ambitions of ESIC to transform the global evidence ecosystem and to make timely, trusted, and equity-centered synthesis a public good. As commissioners, producers, funders, users, and evidence intermediaries, because we truly span all of these roles, We welcome the Cape Town Consensus as a key opportunity to align evidence infrastructure with decision makers' needs and to bring the different forms of evidence to decision makers that are grounded in evaluation, policy scale synthesis, and system level evidence priorities at the global, the regional, and country levels, recognizing our important sort of normative and convening roles. Turning now to the specific commitments we'd like to make as the Global SDG Synthesis Coalition and its members. Going out of this meeting, we would like to sort of indicate our commitments to revamping the evaluation database of the United Nations Evaluation Group, and to work with others to get sort of global repositories and databases working together and more visible and accessible and transparent. To revamp and sort of invest in mapping demand-side needs, and to identify top synthesis questions from a problem-solving orientation, and to consult on these, and to convene around them. To contribute to capacity strengthening, including through national evaluation capacity development commitments, and also to work hard to strengthen the culture for evidence use within our own institutions and in our convening roles, and to really honour the United Nations Charter, which we're celebrating the 80th anniversary of today, but also to work to transforming evidence synthesis to improve lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Some real solid commitments there. Thank you very much. And I think there's a group that closely works with multilateral partners, and I'm going to look for Shaheen to tell me how science advisors are feeling. Do you feel like something will shift? Are things getting better?
Hi, hello. Can you hear me? So I'm Shaheen. I'm from the African chapter of INSA, and I am representing, I would say, science advisors. So following our session yesterday, I can say that science advisors, and our session had people from different geographies, from different organizations, and although some of them do not have the title of science advisors, they still had this function. So it's a broad group of people who are really excited about ESIC, and they have recognized that ESIC will change the way that they work. And they also recognize that when they work at the interface of science, knowledge production, and policy making, there is a range of opportunities that they are ready to embrace, because they share that they are ready and very excited to co-create and support this system that will be in place. And they want to have a more inclusive system to access evidence synthesis and to use evidence synthesis and to make it accessible to others too, whether it is policymakers or the people that they are working with, whether it is scientists, communities, the whole range of stakeholders. And also, they are ready to work on the systematization of science advice and evidence synthesis, and they are ready to do that with organizations that are already working in that area, with networks that are already working in that area. And I'm part of INSA, and we have already committed to do the work and to provide capacity sharing and strengthening to this, to ESIC. And I would like to say, because it is important that contextualization of sectors and regions are taken into consideration. So there is a commitment from science advisors to be ready to provide support in that area. And we also have commitment from some of the science advisors to pilot ESIC and to provide feedback and input on how to improve the system as it is established. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Shaheen. I can hear there's, more road testing and, stress testing, ESIC here, a commitment in so many different ways. And I think a very related, sort of group to science advisors or, people who sort of help with the science decision makers or to bring science into decision making are those evidence support units, And I wanted to speak for them, but, I'll behave. I'll probably ask Ewan. Where are you? Ewan? Over there? Please speak for us. Tell them the nice things we're planning.
Okay, I'll try to speak for, at least from my perspective, but as a coordinated voice with other intermediaries. So my name is Juan Hernandez. I work with IPA, Innovation for Poverty Action. We help governments establish intermediary teams inside their structure, so teams that connect evidence with decision making. And as you were saying, I'm part of the intermediary group, and I think we have a very rich discussion. Something that was obvious to us is that we are close to the decision-making process. And that's very important because we can connect this promise of good evidence, of a strong infrastructure, with the actual decision-making in governments who are designing policy, are implementing policy at scale, reaching millions of people. So the opportunity is really, really great for us. I think this evidence-based, this methodology, this evidence synthesis will give us a tool to be more effective on our work. Nevertheless, there are some challenges here. We have different audiences, we have different models, we have different contexts, different ways of understanding our work. So I think we need to do an effort from the intermediary group to understand what is required from us, what is expected from us, and also from our context, understand what are the needs. So we can also communicate that to you. And in that way, help you to concretize this vision at the country level with governments, and also bring some case studies of impact. I think this vision is really great, but we need to have some quick wins. I think the government provides that opportunity. And yeah, I think that's what I have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, I hear commitment there, and I do acknowledge that those are the sentiments I'm hearing from others who work in support units. Certainly, my own and PACE do feel that way as well. But I think also from, you would be also speaking maybe to some of the sentiments from the working group that was really reflecting on that. And speaking of working groups, I'm also curious, we've put in so much. How are we feeling about where we're at? And I'll ask, the working group that was looking at, the elements that go into here, the infrastructure, or maybe not particularly as a working group, but representing everything that we sort of feel goes into this. Joseph Matthew, how are things? How do you feel about, the infrastructure elements and how we've reflected that in this work?
Thank you, Rona. My name is Joseph Matthew. I live and work in India. No other hats for this meeting. I think I'm incredibly thrilled because I'm confident that all the hard work that's gone in over the past several months will result in creation of infrastructure that will transform evidence synthesis. That's a given. But if we had to use all that to improve the lives of people that matter, then I think we'd have to work harder and faster to walk that talk, to get all that infrastructure to the people whose lives we seek to transform, when they need it, where they want it, and how they'd like to have it. And if we didn't do that, then all this beautiful stuff that we've created here will remain a piece of paper and be great infrastructure, but not really transform the lives of people. And let's not forget, there's over 8 billion of those people whose lives we seek to touch with this. On that somber note, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joseph. Again, really emphasizing, the importance of this work. And, it all started with the word synthesis, right? And then we've seen all of these communities within synthesis. But if I'm to focus actually on evidence synthesis, I'm going to find Sally. Where are you sitting, Sally? Oh, I'll come back. There's a mic there. How are you feeling as an evidence synthesist?
Thank you. So I've been reflecting quite a bit on what evidence synthesis producers can do and commit to take this forward. And I think there's a lot we can do, but I'm going to focus on what I think maybe the two top priorities might be for the evidence synthesis producing community. And my first one is that I think we can embrace the shift in leadership power and I hope funding flow to the Global South, recognising that when it comes to evidence synthesis production, that we actually have decades-long expertise and capacity in many places in the region, including yours. So I think we can highlight that and amplify that in the context of ESIC. So that's the first one. And then the second one, I think, is as evidence producers, we're often characterised as sort of isolated engine rooms, you know, polishing our evidence synthesis and working away on our production. But in fact, in many places, we don't work in isolation and we have strong partnerships already with decision makers. But I think that we can produce our evidence in a way that is more diverse in content, more diverse in format, and more considerate of context. So I think taking forward ESIC's roadmap around the issues of diversity of product would be another way we could commit.
Thank you, Sally. Very, very helpful. And sticking with the, the theme of diversity, for a long time, many of us thought, evidence is only research or, the peer-reviewed work that we do, but certainly we have gotten to know that if we really want to impact and influence decision-making, there are many other forms of evidence, that might need to be considered. And we're learning how to, make use of this. But I'll ask David Halpern, where are you? There you are. Speaking for us who are learning other forms of evidence, is this...
Yeah, very good. So I'm David Halpern. I've been a policymaker for a long time. Also wrote a report last year supported by ESIC on better use of global evidence. It's been really fantastic to be with you, and I kind of carry the picture home in my mind of you all sitting here, that there's this big community of people who actually really care about evidence. I mean, I literally walk around Downing Street with a badge saying, I love evidence. Eleanor's got one too over there, other side of the world. And people think I'm a bit of a freak, but now I know there's other people like me who are all sitting around here. On the evidence, we had some quite heated discussions, as there often are, about the different sources of evidence and are some being neglected. There's also, frankly, a geography to it as well, about in some places haven't been listened to, which often overlaps with that. But if I could just bring out two thoughts, which are kind of central, made me really reflect on, which is in the end, of course, there are many differences in different types of methods and regions and cultures and experiences. And they are really an important part of it that we need to respect. But in the end, if we're in the synthesis game, it is because we believe there are also communalities. There are things which we can learn from each other, right? Samuel, who was talking about, with respect to education, there are lots of differences. But there's not a country in the world that doesn't have teachers. There's not a country in the world that doesn't have parents saying, what can I do to make sure my kids do better, they learn to read and write and so on. So yes, there are lots of differences, but there are those communalities where we can learn from each other. And let's face it, if we didn't believe that, we wouldn't bother to do synthesis, right? Because we wouldn't be able to learn from each other. So I was saying to John, I feel like on top we should write, what do we believe? We believe we can learn from each other. That's why we're here. So I feel like it comes with two words, which is it's respect. It's respect for different methods, for different places. Respect with rigor, though, that we believe we can bring those things together. And the other thought, if I had one other word which comes through it from being with you, which is humility. I think people who are empiricists, what part that comes with the package is that you believe in humility that maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe there's another way, a better way. And so I just think, I spent a lot of recent years doing behavioral science, basically, and there's lots of fancy, commitment devices you just guys did, right? But at the core of it is, one of the effects is that our brain is like a press officer that gives us a spin on things, right? And what's often known as the illusion of explanatory depth. We're all prone to think we understand the world and things that are familiar better than we really do. And that's an incredibly fundamental thing to do, because once you embrace that humility, like, well, maybe I've got it wrong, right? And again, that's so, for me, these three words come together about what we've been doing. Respect, rigor, and humility. If we bring those things together, we're actually going to get somewhere. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. You know, values that many of us really need to continue to reflect and ensure these are in our work. But I think one of the groups that we've been thinking about, you know, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want the policymakers. Josephine, can I ask you to speak for the policymakers? Josephine is from the parliament in Uganda, and you know, many times we're thinking maybe policymakers are just the executive, but I think, you know, the legislature as well. How are you feeling about this?
Thank you, Rona, and I'm super excited. Like the rest of the members have mentioned, I work with my work is to make my members of parliament smart in terms of how they talk, and so working with evidence on a daily is what I do, both for committees and members of parliament in Uganda. My excitement about being part of this consensus and having been part of this journey for the past few months is for us to think about the reusable data, because creating good data takes time and takes resources. And sometimes why we miss out on the windows of opportunity as intermediaries in this evidence space, as knowledge brokers, is when we don't have the information at that point when it is needed. And so by thinking about the option of giving us on tap kind of data that can easily be conceptualized and be utilized within the need of our policymakers, this is a big tick. Our policymakers, while we all think that we have to wait for them to ask for things, we've realized within my workspace that sometimes when you make the evidence available on the table, then you trigger the mind of the policymaker to say, then if this is here, I can use it. So as one of the challenges that I'm giving all of us as we leave Cape Town is to not wait for them to come to you, open up those doors, knock those doors. We have a lot of intermediaries within your own workspace who have direct contact and connection to these policymakers, and create your case, build your case from there. And the other thing that I also want to conclude with is about the issue of improving lives and saving money. When you look at the heart of every policy that policymakers are considering, depending on where we are, at the heart, when you hear the discussions and the debates from the time that I've been in their space, they're always talking about improving money, and improving lives, but making it in an efficient way so that we are not wasting more resources. So I think we are on the right path. I look forward to keep thinking, keep talking, keep working this charter and this consensus as something that I want to be reflecting on, but also keep opening my doors so that when I need evidence from people like you, the synthesizers, the producers out there, to create that information and put it on the table for my member of parliament, for other policymakers, I actually have you with me. So just to say thank you once again and enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Josephine. And I think earlier I highlighted commitment. We've had friends who've walked this journey with us for the last 6 months, helping conceptualize, being a part of the conversations, again, bringing context in all sorts of ways, but most importantly, enabling. And James, how are you feeling about how things have happened?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic to be part of the conversations. I'm James Canton from UK Research and Innovation, the Economic and Social Research Council. I'm going to give a few reflections on the vision that we've heard about over the last few days, what we're building together, and why I think it matters. And I'll also say a little bit about ESRC's commitment as part of this. So ESRC, we became involved in this process because we think that this field is on the cusp of transformative change. The ESIC roadmap and the charter that we've been discussing, I think, paints a really clear and ambitious picture of that transformation. It's about shifting from static, one-off reviews to living systems of real-time, user-centered evidence. Evidence that's faster, more relevant, more contextual, and more responsive to real-world decisions. And it's also about embedding evidence into the daily working lives of policymakers, practitioners, and citizens, whether you're in Asia, the Caribbean, Europe, the Americas, or Africa. And that's why ESRC is funding a major infrastructure grant as part of ESIC to help drive all of this forward. But let's be honest, there are risks. Our funding, and the Wellcome funding, for example, is, I think, just a contribution to what's been set out in the roadmap. So ESRC's commitment is to work with other funders, with the Wellcome Trust, to see how we might bring others along on this journey with us. And we're engaging roughly 30 other funders. But I also wanted to say that I think funding is only one piece of the puzzle here. What excites me most about what we've seen over the last few days is the system shift that ESIC and that your work has started. The creation of a connected global community, funders, evidence producers, and users, all co-designing this together. The diverse voices, the regional leadership, and a shared understanding of what good looks like. That's new, I think. I don't think we've seen that before, and I think that's quite powerful. But of course, there are other risks as well. So we heard yesterday, for example, that we need to make sure that users, the demand side, is really front and center in everything we're doing. But the roadmap, the charter, the opportunity is clear. A global infrastructure anchored in local impacts, an infrastructure that starts with users, and a shift from evidence as a one-size-fits-all product to evidence as a living, tailored, and integrated service. So thank you for all of your work getting us to this point.
Thank you, James, and please keep that microphone for me near there. Keep it there, because I'll come back right there. But, you know, keeping it to, the funders and people who are really believing into ESIC. Jacob's Foundation bought into this idea really quickly, before we went through everything you've seen here, where we can articulate our vision and we can speak very clearly about it. It was sort of still wobbly, but they believed in us. And I'm curious, Samuel, what is this that you saw? Maybe we can use that to sell to other people.
This is the moment where I'm tempted to go off script because they gave me a script to fit in 30 seconds. But I have to say, in the ESIC roadmap, actually, on the consensus, you have one of the components around building the infrastructure on our charter. We actually still have it somewhere. And in the roadmap, there's one specific component for what we call, and I'm quoting the roadmap here, sector-based activity, including maintaining connected repositories. And this is where I want to bring you. The Jacobs Foundation is an education funder, and our initial contribution to this ESIC roadmap, we are discussing this today, is going to be to test for the education sector a minimum viable product. First of all, we are going to create for the sector of education a taxonomy of the sector, and also an evidence repository. So this is our commitment to the sector over the next 18 months. And we will be working with more than 30 plus education organizations, and much more, some of whom are actually represented here in the room today, across the sector, supporting ed labs and other intermediaries. We've heard from some of them as well, and I think it's also part of the consensus that we've had here today. And all of that in order to support those institutions to produce up to 8 to 10 syntheses. This is something you can check on our website in the next year, supporting synthesis in 8 to 10 countries, using the infrastructure that we would have built in the first stage of this process. And if this is successful, we will be looking to massively scale it in the sector from 2027 onward. This is what happens when I have to be scripted and tired. But I hope you got it. As a Jacobs Foundation, we are very, very excited to be part of this process and looking forward to continuing to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Some really solid commitments there. And, there was a very, very clear commitment, to start this process, to see it through. And all of us will know that probably without the support of Welcome, a lot of this would not have happened. And I know, with gratitude and everything, there's still more to do. There's still more that still needs to be tied up. But how is Cape Town speaking to Welcome? Isabel will let us know.
Wow, the big question. How am I feeling? My heart is full. My brain is full. I'm absolutely exhausted. But I must say I've been so supercharged by all of these rich conversations that we've had this week. So I can only thank you for that. This week, a lot of you have asked me, Isabel, are you doing anything else? Have you got any other projects that you're working on? And yes, I have several other plates which are very full. But to me, ESIC is the special one. And that's because of all of you. So I'm so proud. I'm proud of us as a collective of communities. So I just want to thank you all on behalf of Welcome. And I wanted to leave you all with just a final reflection on the opportunity. We've talked about ambition, we've talked about risk, and I think for us as funders, it's a real opportunity to shape how we improve and change the way that evidence synthesis is funded to improve lives. So I really want us to commit to the actions that we wrote down on those postcards and commit to establishing new best practices and positive feedback loops to work with us as funders. So we as funders are committing to working with you all, but I also want you to continue your commitment to help us help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isabel. I'm getting lots of glances from Lawrence, so maybe I'll hold it there. If he gives me another few minutes, I'll come back. There's so many people that I would like to hear, from, but maybe I'll break it for a bit and send it back to Lawrence so he can change his faces.
Thank you, Rona. So as you can see from the time, not everything is going according to plan. I might not surprise to hear that this whole week not everything went according to plan. I mean, the thunder wasn't planned, the rain wasn't planned. And I think it's fair to say in the 6 months of ESIC, not everything went according to plan. And going forward in the implementation of the roadmap, not everything is going to go according to plan. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. We have a foundation, we have a community, we have a vision, we know where we're going, we have a journey together. We're bringing the emotions. We're bringing the vision of how this can change lives. And I think that is something that we need to keep in mind. It's important. It's a gravity. But at the same time, it's definitely something that we should celebrate. So with that, let's give it one last round of applause before we wrap up. Thank you. So, the last part, can it please go according to plan? Can I have Patrick and, where are you, Patrick? Super. Patrick, if you can come up quickly to speak on behalf, the last message from the co-leads.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be speaking on behalf of the co-leads or the co-chairs. And as co-chairs, we have been very excited by the process. And while we have produced a huge number of reports, the process we have been through has been much more deeper. As a group, we are happy to remain a resource to funders going forward. And we are committed to publishing to make sure that there is an account of this very, very important process. We are all incredibly appreciative to the huge contributions of our planning clerks, the research analysts, and the working group members. And with the spirit and the words of Nelson Mandela and his friend, Mandla Langa, this has been a long walk, but the road ahead is even more uncertain, and we dare not linger. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And that was according to plan. The next one, the last one, Zoe, can we hear from you on behalf of the Secretariat?
Hi everyone, I'm Zoe. I'm from JBI in Australia and part of the Secretariat who always give me the really good gig. So of course I'm the person standing between you and dinner and more importantly drinks, so I'm going to try and be really quick. As we draw this remarkable gathering to a close, it's my honour and privilege to deliver a heartfelt vote of thanks on behalf of the Secretariat, who've become a little bit like my second family. I've spent more evenings with them than with my own family in the last 6 months. But first and foremost, our deepest gratitude goes to all of you, both those of you who have been a part of the process for the last 6 months and those of you who have just joined us this week. Your dedication, your insight and collaboration have been truly inspiring. We thank you for your thoughtful contributions to the discussion, your willingness to share knowledge and your commitment to building stronger, more sustainable systems for evidence synthesis. The consensus we've begun to shape here is not a product just of shared expertise, but shared purpose, and that's incredibly powerful. To our hosts, Lawrence and Rona, thank you for setting the tone with such clarity, vision, and positive energy. To our moderators and facilitators, thank you for your skillful guidance, which has created a safe space for rich dialogue and respectful disagreement, which are the lifeblood of meaningful consensus. As we leave here, let us carry forward the spirit of this collaboration, grounded in equity, transparency, and global solidarity. This is not the end of a conversation, but a strong beginning. So once again, thank you for your time, for your energy, and for your partnership. We wish you all safe passage home, and we look forward to our continued work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you so much. And I'm not too sure that, I would have more to say other than thank yous as well. Again, not to hold you back, but on behalf of myself and Lawrence and the team, there's just so many, people in the background that have made Cape Town happen. Not only for these 3 days, but for several months. This has been in the making, and we are so, so grateful. But most of all, for the work that has brought us together. So I really want to say thank you to the co-leads, the groups, the working groups, everybody in there, what you have given, what we know, and probably a lot that we do not know. Thank you for really making that, sort of work. And of course, the friends of ESIC. So there's many that have joined the journey to make sure that we understand what we're doing, to make sure that, they give us the constructive critique, to make sure that, this is relevant and it makes a difference. I just want to say thank you very much. The Secretariat, those sleepless nights, the anxiety, they probably won't end today. Maybe it's the beginning of a whole new set, the challenges, you being challenged to think about all sorts of things and taking it with grace, and just leading this process. It might look really good or whatever it looks like at the end of the day, but so much work has gone into it. And I think we do agree that that leadership, that coordination, the steering, the stewardship, has been fantastic to get us to this process. So thank you so much again. and then, giving us the chance to host you and the groups, to come here and try to make those decisions that you've had to make. And again, I'll point out, I said there were many people in the background, but MICE management, you've been really, really fantastic. I don't know, fantastic. Well done. We are grateful. There's so much that we just wouldn't have been able to do without you. And of course, the management of CTICC, again, thank you. I think you've made it quite seamless. The facilities have been fantastic for us to have, these conversations. Has anybody, not had a story about ticket changes and ticket things and tickets and tickets and tickets and my letter, my visa letter, all sorts of things, accommodation? I hope this message can go back to, our agent Paolo, who, it doesn't matter what the issue is, he will sort it, believe me, and he's done such a fantastic job. So Paolo and team, thank you so much. The team, the IT team, back there, thank you very much. I think it's really been fantastic. We've had each other, we've, been able to communicate very well. We've, all of this stuff, we can see what we need to see at the right time. Thank you again. Thank you so much. Dion and team, the doodling, the drawings. I don't know even if you gave me 100 years and 100 years of training to do that. I don't think I would be able to. Thank you very much for reflecting our conversations. Thank you so much. That's a lot of stuff to get into one picture, Thank you so much for that. And to Pace and Acres, where are you? Are you in the room? The few that are in the room, there's still many running around. Back there, our teams. Pace, Acres, well done. Well done. Okay? Thank you so much for making this work out the way that it has. And I don't know who I'm forgetting, but it's just gratitude. It's thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for coming to Cape Town at this time of the year. No sun, but yeah. Thank you, everybody, for making this as fantastic as it has been.
I think normal logistics.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.